My name is Vina, and I had a near-death experience many, many years ago when I was 17. Um, my parents were not travelers, they were not worldly people at all. And an opportunity came up for me to go to a trip to Italy. I was just very excited, very, looking forward to this trip. It'd be my first time out of the country. And when I got there, I was tired because I had been so excited the days leading up to the trip, no sleep, etc. But I took quite a few of the no-dose pills, which is pure caffeine. And I did that right before I left the airport. So by the time we got our bags and we're taking them out to the bus, the no-dose had started working in my system. And I was getting a little frantic feeling. Got on the bus, sort of started half laying down, and closed my eyes. And within moments of being on the bus, my heart just started racing so fast. And it got to the point where I could hear it. I could actually hear my heart racing. And it sounded like a train. And that lasted about 1 or 2 minutes. And then after that, it did the opposite. It started slowing down so much. It was very scary. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't even scream. And it got to the point where I can remember hearing it go boom, boom, boom. And then I heard nothing. My heart literally stopped. And that is a moment I remember like it just happened like 10 minutes ago. But anyway, the minute it stopped, my spirit just popped right out of my body. And I saw myself lying there on the bus, but I saw everything all at once. But I was seeing things from a different perspective, a 360-degree omnidirectional perspective. So I saw my entire body as it lay there. And I was very skinny back then, but I looked like a big slab of meat. I had no clue that I was dead at that moment because you feel like you're in real time as a spirit, which I was. I felt so alive, more alive than I did actually as I was taking, as I felt when I had all that noodles coursing through my system. Um, I just felt super alive, super aware, super connected to everything that was going on around me. And there was a bunch of energy streams around me, around the bus, inside the bus, outside the bus, and it was all like connected somehow. And when I say energy streams, I mean there was energy coming from the people that were on the bus. There was energy coming from the cars traveling by. There was even some type of energy coming from the grass that was um, on the side of the highway and even the mountains. And I remember the energy coming off the mountains was a very steady pulse of energy, but it was still energy coming from these mountains. And they're like the most stationary thing on the planet, right? Um, and so I'm taking this all in, and in the midst of taking all this in, I hear the bus driver, a Italian man, and he's very animated and he's cursing at all this traffic going by. And I kind of walked up to him, and I just my spiritual being just went right through there was a guy standing there before the bus driver, and I my being just went right through him. There was this feeling that kind of came over me and overshadowed my being with this warmth. It was like a warm feeling and a connection, and it just spirited me away. And when it did that, we went into this white realm, and the being didn't identify itself to me right at that particular moment, but this realm was just the most beautiful, white, pure love that you can just imagine. And I was so energized in this realm, but I was never more at peace. I remember just feeling the most peaceful, serene feeling that I could. And after a while, this being did tell me and told me that they were my guide, and that I did ask, "What is a guide?" Um, and they told me that I would find out soon enough. And it wasn't like my guide wasn't a male, it wasn't a female. It was something more, something, a combination of that, but much more. Um, and I felt like I knew this entity, but the knowledge of how I knew them was like hidden from me. It went a little back and forth. They told me that we were going to travel, and we went through this swirling energy, not a tunnel, but it was like a combination of dimensions and energy, and a mix of those dimensions. And we went through this, and we landed out in space, like space, here space. And I had done it before, went out into space during a very quick astral traveling I had done one time many years before that. Um, but what I saw then and what I saw with my guide was something totally different, because out in space with my guide, I was able to see different dimensions, different energy streams of energy. um, you're seeing like almost forever out there, and it is black, but it's also interspersed with so much energy, so many fragments of these particles that are out there. I remember there was this humongous, um, I thought it was a planet, and it wasn't a planet. It was a actual ship, but it was spherical. And my guide explained to me, gave me like a zoomed in version of it, and I could see where the actual ship was like oscillating a little bit. And um, my guide said that there were beings in that ship that had left their home world, and they had been traveling, and they traveled in this planet-sized ship thing. And that their actual presence may scare me a bit. So I'm probably glad that I didn't see them. I saw souls traveling in space. You could just see them as their orbs. Just some of them were just gently going, and some of them were just zooming past and traveling really fast. Um, you could see ships out there. Some of them came like streaks, traveling so fast. Some of them were just stationary. Some of them were not really traveling that fast, but they were traveling with purpose, like they were going somewhere. It's amazing. It's a lot of traffic out in space. that we never see, here. And we went to, eventually my guide took me to this different system that was in our, not in our solar system, but in our galaxy. And I saw these beings that were like uh, crystallized, a bio-crystallized type beings, and they were able to blend in and merge with this structure that I guess you could say was their ship, but it looked just like them. They were transparent, and they had glistening lights off their outline. And the really weird part, and I'm so sure people that have read my book or have heard this are like, yeah, right. But they had vertical slits as eyes. Their eyes were just from like here to here, like what would be on our face, but they opened vertically, and it was very different seeing that. But anyway, after I kind of had my fill of that, and my attitude, I know my guide sensed my attitude about these particular creatures, and I really feel bad now because I was so ignorant, and not really interested. They said that we were going to go to another section of space, and we went to another planet. Well, no, that wasn't a planet, but we went to a planet, and this planet was just completely water, and it had 3 moons and a blue sun, and it was the prettiest sun. And I remember thinking, like, aren't suns supposed to be yellow? Like I had that thought, but it was such a pretty sun. It was like a light pale blue. And this world, this water world, it had very little land on it. And we did see a few creatures coming up out of the water. Um, there was this one brontosaurus looking type creature. It was humongous, and it actually could like do acrobatic type stuff, coming out of the water and then jumping back in. But I guess our whales kind of do that too. um, but we don't have a creature like this that I saw. um, and after we saw a few of the creatures come out of the water, we went into below surface, and there we saw all different type of mermaids, all different type of creatures, um, marine type of creatures. I saw stuff that you would say like was algae or seaweed, but it was like they were cognizant type beings. They had intelligence to them, and they moved with intelligence. I still find fascinating. And going into the water, although I was like a spiritual type of being, I you still felt sort of like a, a, a sticky vibration going over my spirit. And my guide had both of us as orbs then, when we first went in. But because of these mermaid type creatures, um, and I guess so that, we could be acknowledged by them, my guide widened its orb. And when they did that, it's like these mer creatures and some of the other creatures took notice of us, and they swam right to it, right to the orb, the huge orb. Um, and they started communicating with each other. And I know that they were like gossiping about us and trying to figure out what we were. And I was taking in all the different type of creatures that they were. But anyway, we did communicate. My guide did communicate with them. I didn't, because I really didn't understand them, but my guide did to a degree. Um, and after a while, we left there, and we left right from the water. We didn't come up out of the water. My guide like opened up a another type of portal or vortex, and we came up through that vortex. Um, and we returned back to the white realm. And back in that white realm was sort of like a teaching session. My guy showed me quite a few things, explaining to me about certain things that I necessarily wasn't even concerned with, but now I can see the wisdom of what they told me. My guy gave me a couple simple rules, and that kindness, above all, just be kind. That was probably the most important thing. And to enjoy life, like don't take it that serious, because it's really not as serious as we think. And some information on how to not use love, but how love can impact our lives, and the energy of love, the power that it has. And so my guide also warned me not to ever take pills like that again, that my heart would be protected this time because it took a little beating, but don't ever do that again because I wouldn't be protected, and I never have. And so they sort of released me, and I found myself being positioned back into this body, back on the bus. But it wasn't as easy as popping out. It was a little bit more involved. You could feel different layers. I could feel different layers of myself repositioning back into my body. And it took a little bit. And when I first came back, I couldn't, excuse me, I couldn't see, and I couldn't really move. And then everything sort of clicked into place after a while. And I regained control of my body. And then a film came over my eyes, and I was able to see. Um, and that was sort of the end of that experience.